So in 2014, Prime Minister Modi took oath as the Prime Minister of India, and we have had 8 years so far. And last month, the government has been telling the people of India about the various initiatives which happened in the past 8 years. So the topic of discussion is how India has performed in the past 8 years, and what does the future look like for India? Is Megan, are you saying something? Okay, so thank you so much for joining us. I'll just give a brief biography of our guest speaker today, and then we'll have 30 minutes of interaction with her. And later on, I'll open it up for audience questions. And the whole interaction will last for about 60 minutes. So we have with us Poonam Mahajanji, who's a second-time member of parliament. She represents the Mumbai North Central constituency. She's the ex-national president of the Bharatiya Janata Yuva Morcha, which is the youth wing of the BJP, which is the ruling party in India right now. She's a member of Parliamentary Standing Committee on External Affairs and also the member of Consultative Committee on Ministry of Textiles. She's the ex-chairman of Maharashtra State Animal Welfare Board. She's also the co-chairman of Indo-Israel MPP Forum of Parliamentarians. So the biography is really long because she's been involved in policy issues and politics for quite a lot of time. And she's been engaged with various initiatives related to rural development, gender equality, health and education outcomes for children, and also the environment. So thank you so much for joining us, Poonamji, and I'll start with the first question right away. So 8 years is a decent amount of time to assess the performance of any government. We'll start with the economy. Now, what's your assessment of the economic growth in the last years, and specifically in the context of what has changed from the pre-2014 era and post-2014 era? And also in the backdrop of the fact that we've had 2 years of pandemic, and after that, we have had this Ukrainian invasion, which has led to a cost of living crisis and energy prices shooting up all across the world. So the challenges are huge. What's your assessment of how Indian economy has done in the past 8 years, and how does the future look, and what are the challenges going ahead?
Thank you, MPP Forum, for having me here. Very good afternoon to all. Thank you, Mr. Verma, for having me here and moderating this wonderful connect with all different nationalities coming together. Thank you, Ms. Hiranandani, for pushing me into this. And I hope I do okay, which expectations all of you have. The question has very different aspects. When you talk about India after 2014, so let me tell you about India before 2014. In very few points, like the fragile five economy, the rampant corruption economy in 2014, distrust between Indian civil society and between the Indian polity, the political class. There was so much happening because of the rampant corruption, Indian civil society questioning the polity, fragile five economy. I think after that, when we looked at the election in 2014, and with a great margin and a good majority, Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi took oath. He actually believed from 2014, he always said that when I have to talk about the economical growth of this country, I need to center a woman of this India towards it. So till the time it's not women-led economical development growth, we can't be looking forward to it. And I think that equality he looked at, and now when from 2014 before as Fragile Five, now after 2014, we are looking at the fifth largest and still fastest growing world's largest economy. Not red tapeism, red carpet to all the companies coming. Later on, I can tell you how the tax benefits and essential ways how it looked at. But let me just give you a few points where I look at in 2014 to 2022, how the development has steered its way straight to take each and every individual of this country to be part of this country's economy and growth itself and together. Mm, One is JAM. So JAM is one concept which I feel we worked on it pretty well, called Jandhan Aadhaar Mobile. Before 2014, opening a bank account somewhere in smaller village in Bareilly in Uttar Pradesh or somewhere in southern India in Kerala was not a basic necessity of life. You could have money lenders with cash economy, you could connect with a lot of things. But I think when Prime Minister took oath, he first, to actually control the economy to come under one ambit, he pushed for JAM, the Trinity. Jandhan, which is bank accounts for all. So all your direct benefit transfer comes to you, to your bank account. You don't need a middleman to reach to it. Aadhaar, your social security number, which will have all the information about you and what you need to, what you deserve it to connect with it. So there is one social security number which will be connected to you. And third is mobile. I think you all know how India has taken a leap in fastest growing economy to even connect with internet and how we have used UPI. We all have seen it in this pandemic time also. So anybody, a man or a woman coming from any strata of life, because of Jandhan Aadhaar Mobile, could have a direct connect to its own policy makers, to its own government. So direct benefit transfer was direct from the mobile to your Jandhan account, and you have Aadhaar to verify yourself. So I think that clarity was very much took it forward, and now in Jandhan accounts, usually women always for their direct benefit transfer needed a husband, if not a husband, a son or a brother or someone else to help them out to get that benefit to themselves. But now she has one mobile phone, and penetration of mobile and internet in India is, compared to world, has gone much, much forward. So that actually, we worked on it, Honorable Prime Minister worked on it pretty well. Second, because I talk about women-led development, I am known as a toilet MP. Why, I'll tell you. In Mumbai, actually, I must have built in my first 5 years, first term of MP, I must have built few 100,000 toilets, and especially more and community toilets, then started working on this. So United Development's Sustainable Development Goals, in those, water sanitation is a very important part, and that connects directly to your health. As we talk, I just spoke about women-led development just for the sustainable goal development number 5 with gender equality. So toilets, open defecation was the biggest problem we were facing. When Honorable Prime Minister started speaking about Swachh Bharat Muhim, where we need to learn how to be clean and keep the entire surface cleaner for many other reasons, for your health benefits. And he built, again, because of Jandhan Aadhaar Mobile, JAM Trinity, you directly get a benefit money to build your own toilet in your own house. So you didn't have to go to a panchayat office, a government officials, or to a district office, or to any other offices. It directly used to come, it still comes to you, and you build your own toilet with that money sent by the government. Ujjwala Yojana. In India, when we talk about climate issues, the biggest problem was outside the bigger cities, the 4 metros and a little bit of the tier 2 cities. Women always had issues of getting a direct gas connection. We always used coal or wood to cook food. And now, because of this small gas cylinder, which benefits to every woman, and a very easy way to keep her health well and cook well and clean energy, I think that has also reached to few crore women. I mean, we have touched almost 10 crore households and women, where we directly give Ujjwala. Ujjwala is, it just lights up itself. That policy. The biggest leap, again, we have taken in many which way, is UPI. Now for internet and especially the digital payment gateways, India has conquered 40% of world's market. Maybe I must be plus and minus 1% there. But last I checked, we have taken 40% of digital payment market. India has taken it. After that is China, and I think it's South Korea. Then I think US has come to number 9. So that UPI movement, which we actually pushed forward, and it took a big leap in actually Corona times, where we could not meet each other, but we had the JAM Trinity again, Jandhan Aadhaar Mobile. everything was very easy to connect with. So that one point, I think in 2014 to 2022, we could achieve, and India has taken again a better leap for that. One more point I can put forward is Make in India. Now you see, even in defense, Make in India, in smaller manufacturing units, Make in India. Our idea of Atmanirbhar Bharat, self-reliant India. This idea is not only an idea, the impact of that idea as being the biggest importer as a country, we have become a manufacturing hub. When we talk about making mobiles, India actually makes mobiles which have created almost a $6 billion mobile production, which is being sold outside. And exports, because we were always dependent on more on imports and more on economy in that way, our exports have crossed 400 billion US dollars this year, which is again a history itself India has made. And because of that, the production link incentives, PLIs, we have created lots of jobs. And because of that, India could create itself as a manufacturing hub. One more point I can talk about is unicorns, which is the hot topic nowadays. Many startups
that will bring me to my next question. So before you,
I wanted to add these things where I can see as unified market, we've got GST. So there are n numbers of things we have from 2014. It was just a vision and idea, but how beautifully it's been taking its step forward. And again, record margin of GST collection together. Now we are under ambit of one tax. I think India has taken many bigger challenges and impacts and made a very good impact on people. And I think we do have challenges, as you have said, but with those challenges also, we are taking every step forward.
So you mentioned unicorns, and there has been a lot of discussion on startups in India, for instance. And we have seen a lot of startups and new businesses coming up in India, as India has moved up in the ease of doing business rankings as well. And India used to be notorious for having too many processes and procedures and the number of forms you had to fill to open a simple business. So we have improved in that, but there seem to be still so many bottlenecks in different states. There have been questions on the profitability of unicorns. How do you think we can create a better environment for businesses? And what else is the government planning to ease these bottlenecks? Because in a lot of states, having, Bangalore has really, Bangalore and Mumbai have pioneered in startups, but still in the rest of India, we are still more towards a job seeking economy than a job creating economy. So that transition is yet to happen in that way.
Mr. Verma, when we look at a transition in the country of 1.35 billion people, there are a lot of aspects we have to look at. And as a democracy, we need to be a competitive states with each other. And Karnataka has been great in their competition. But frankly, the policy of Government of India has made that impact. It just up to every state, how they want to look at startups and converting them into a larger prospect, which will help, as you speak about, not for job seekers, but job creators. Think about it. When you want to register a company, the compliances from 13 have come down to 3. There are only 3 points you need to connect with one window system if you're starting a startup. I won't go into Startup India and Stand Up India, where smaller businesses, very small businesses in tier 3 cities, where you get a lot of opportunity with bank loans and you don't need to put in many compliances with that. Retrospective tax has been gone. The most famous angel tax, it's not there anymore. I think every step has been pushing forward to where businesses can flourish. Corporate tax, I think, has been 15% from 25% in last year. When we talk about businesses, World Bank's ease of doing business index has surged from 142 in 2014 to 63 in 2019. I think that gives a large answer to what expectations people have from the government. So think about it, 142 to 63 is a big step forward. Single window system, and we have, I was just going through with that, as I told you before also, more than red tapeism, red carpet is very important. And when we talk about self-reliant self-reliant India, even in defense. I mean, tomorrow the Honorable Prime Minister will be inaugurating a big show on startups for biotech companies. So what is this is a process which we are working on, maybe forward or back, but the policy is very strong. As I've told you, a lot of taxes have been repealed every year with every government businesses, and especially with every budget. We look at our startups very seriously also, because Honorable Prime Minister only had said that we want to be the job creators, not the job seekers. So that balance, I think, when I told you about even PLI system, where we are giving incentives for manufacturing hub and to everyone, I think all these things add up more. And I think we have almost removed 24 to 25,000 compliances in smaller companies where they can get it. 1,400 archaic, those laws which were not required to start a business or start anything. I think that's the idea which we are looking forward to. And as startups need a lot of funding, uh, India itself has given a lot of strength. The government has given a lot of strength for funding. But when we look now, our even FDI has grown in a very large historic manner. So people do believe in Indian businesses, and that's what we can see. That's what I believe in that, Mr. Verma.
So let's move forward from the economy and business to the environment. And that's a topic of great interest, especially to the MPP cohort that we have here. So there have been a lot of concerns about the impact of India's rapid economic growth on the environment. We had the summit in Glasgow as well, where there was a lot of debate on India, taking more measures to reduce emissions. There have been issues and protests even in your own state, Maharashtra, on the degradation of ecosystems and biodiversity. Do you feel that the government so far has been committed enough on environmental issues? And how do you plan on striking the balance between economic growth and the environment?
Um, COP21, when Prime Minister promised that he will try to slowly eliminate the fossil fuel and get into more renewable energy sources, I think we have reached that commitment 9 years early. 40% of our energy sources come from renewable energies, which is anybody can see how we are working on it. But when in COP26, I think the Prime Minister spoke about Panchamrit, 5 ideas how India is going to look forward to climate change. And I'm very happy that first time in climate change, India was also acting as a global leader. When in COP21, Honorable Prime Minister spoke about um, how India also need that equity and equality to speak on climate change, because we are much behind. When someone talk about climate change, those developed countries have taken a lot of leaps and bounds, but of course have been contributor in making this climate little difficult to handle. But India is ready to take that responsibility too, and we know the gap is quite a lot. But we are, again, as I use this word very strongly, take that leap forward, because it's very important when we have such a large population. And with that large population, we need bigger policy making and decisions for climate change. So as I have said, 40% in this Namami Gange, holy river Ganga, and connected to many other rivers. Namami Gange project, we have taken it very seriously, because water sanitation connecting to such a big river, which connects to our lives. And of course, we need to use that for transportation also. So Namami Gange as a flagship program, government is putting 30,000 crore in the start. And we want to take this program with other river rejuvenation programs also. Second, I think 10 of our Indian beaches have now become blue flag certified. I mean, if anybody has gone to not only Goa, but many other beautiful places in India, there are 10 beaches now we have started working. There is a movement, not only policy making from the government, but we do have now a lot of amazing younger generation with different ideas, but coming together to fight together with the policymakers for climate change. Our population doubled in 2018, tiger population, which was a big concern and a big program before 2014. There were a lot of protests also. Even in climate change, I would like to put this forward. When I was talking about Ujjwala Yojana, which is a gas subsidized or free gas cylinder to a small household, that actually also is part of carbon emission control. When we talk about, actually in India, we were not using LED bulbs. We have literally distributed 36 crore LED bulbs, and now we have policy to work on LED bulbs. Solar energy, the world's biggest park is commissioned to be made in Rajasthan, which is, I think, 2400 megawatt solar energy park. The costing on solar panels and solar energy has drastically reduced by 70%, which then people can actually connect with non-fossil fuel, uh, alternate energy sources to cities, villages. Our strength farmers get solar pump free or with subsidized rate. So there are n number of things, from smaller little steps to bigger steps and policies. I think we are working on this. And last, if I remember, every government offices and the ministers have to use EV vehicles, I mean the electric vehicles. So that policy also has taken a big shift in our country. So where I think climate change also is connected very strongly, and we're taking that forward. Mm, so, and me as being a climate change activist, you spoke about my state of Maharashtra. Um State, I live in Mumbai. I'm a member of parliament from Mumbai. So we are having a lot of issues with how do we work on the carbon footprint and how do we save environment. So that sustainable development is a question, but sometimes in policy making, policy did come up, a politics of policies came up, and we did take a little hit because in certain ways, but I think together we can make that happen also in Maharashtra.
So I will quiz you a bit more on India's reliance on fossil fuels, because India is going through a big heat wave right now. And when it comes to reliance on fossil fuel, the concerns are not just environmental, they're also concerns of the demand of electricity, of energy, which is increasing every day in India. And also there's a geopolitical angle in this, because uh, we see with the Ukrainian invasion that uh, the energy imports of a country have a lot of bearing on its foreign policy and the geopolitics of the region. And India relies heavily on fossil fuels from the Middle East as well. Now, uh, we saw that India's reliance on coal is actually not very feasible, also because coal itself has a lot of logistical issues. Air quality in Indian cities is, deteriorating every day. So we are also looking at nuclear energy as well. Uh, what's the short-term strategy do you think India should employ? Because we haven't really tapped into nuclear energy a lot, and even though the government plans on, increasing that and coming up with new nuclear power plants as well, but your own state had Jadapur, which couldn't really uh, be operationalized because of a lot of protests, and there's a lot of environmental concerns about that as well. So how do you see that planning panning out? And do you think we can, 40% is like a really good thing we have done, but every percentage increase from now on would require much more effort?
It's so difficult to be in my shoes, who actually are passionately environmentalist and been working since childhood for animals, environment, hardcore vegetarian, and half of the time speak for veganism and talk about plant protein. To be a policy maker where there are diverse people and people's livelihood, 135 crore people. I mean, it's a huge set of people we need to balance out and make their lives comfortable. So of course it's a tightrope for me and for many people. But I've never said it's enough. I'm just trying to show you the hopeful picture, because I always see the glass half full, and I need to believe that I need to fill up the entire glass. But when we look at, of course, when there are policy leaders, sometimes people have lesser expectation when you see them not performing, not working. There are bigger expectation from people who are actually performing. So I understand that expectation from the government of India and the prime minister's entire team. But in last 7 years, when 25% of your non-fossil fuel energy sources are coming out, is actually not a bad thing. But I won't be saying it's quite impressive. When you talk about Jaitapur project, now there are certain ways politically, it's not even an environmental clearance concept. Sometimes politics does come in. It's not about a story of India, it's story of every country when there are multiple political parties have their survival on certain political seats. But I don't see that in BJP doing it. Let me not be political in this, because when the government is there, there should be more governance than less politics. And I hope Jaitapur will take off sooner with the consent of people living there. Uh, Now it's not in Jaitapur, it's a little further ahead, which they have to work on in Konkan region. Uh, but leaving apart the politics with Maharashtra, I feel when the promises have been put forward and they are met 9 years before, that means there is a seriousness with government of India. They, what they say, they mean it and they do it. When Honorable Prime Minister spoke in COP26 about Panchamrut, I was just taking the points out of Panchamrut. The first Panchamrut is 5 points, which are just like a great elixir. So that's what he tried to say. First point of Punch is 5. So just 5 points. First is India will reach its non-fossil energy capacity to 500 gigawatts by 2030. We are really pushing forward to it. Second, India will meet 50% of its energy requirement, renewable energy, by 2030, which we are reaching to it. Third, India will reduce the total projected carbon emission by 1 billion tons from now onwards till 2030. Now, how do you reach 1 billion tons? I can give you two examples. Indian Railways. Indian Railways is our biggest communication network in the country, as you know, Mr. Verma. And now Indian Railways, the huge railway system itself has target making net zero by 2030. And with that initiative alone, it will lead us to reduction of 60 million tons of emission annually. Because here we are talking about 1 billion tons from now onwards to 2030 and 60 million tons. I think we are taking a step forward. When I was talking about this massive LED bulb, entire country was giving, free LED bulbs, speaking about LED bulbs. That itself, this campaign is reducing emission by 40 million tons annually. Why I want to give you these two examples? It's not only about talk, it's about that implementation done. Reliable, renewable source of energy with uh, even we are looking at more and more different options also. Again, fourth, by 2030, India will reduce the carbon intensity of its economy by less than 45%. And fifth is by year 2070, India will achieve the target of net zero. These panchamrits will be unprecedented contribution from India to the climate action. And India's aim to achieve 50% its installed energy capacity through 2030 in a bid to promote sustainable. We are working on the non-dependability on oil. So I think we are taking few steps forward. Yes, certain projects need more climate sensitivity and sensitization also together, because we don't need people to give up their lands just for not understanding. So the sensitivity of a project connected to climate and sensitizing people what actually is required and what should be done is very important. So we are looking for alternative and we are trying to achieve those goals.
Thank you. So moving away from environment, I want to talk a bit about your own state and the state of democracy and freedom of speech in Maharashtra. So I was quite concerned about a few arrests that have been made in the past few months on social media posts, and there was also before the moratorium on the sedition law by the Supreme Court. There have been, imposition of the draconian sedition laws on in cases where it doesn't really, fit, and even the Bombay High Court, uh, you know, gave a lot of observations on the misuse of the sedition law. And so the BJP is not in power in Maharashtra, but how do you see the state of democracy and freedom of speech in your own state, which seems to be dwindling in the past few months?
See, when I was heading the youth wing of BJP for 4 years from 2016 to 2020, um, we had this huge agitation in state of Kerala, where every 10th BJP worker was hacked to death because the ideology was not correct for the people sitting in the government, or was actually amputated or beaten up. There were so many things were happening in Kerala and Bengal, and we fought for it, for democracy. The problem, not because I'm a member of parliament from BJP, but the problem is in democracy. I have seen in my state also, which I was not expecting it to happen. If you're not with us, you're against us. This kind of attitude does not help with the freedom of speech. We all face trolls, a lot of other issues. I still remember when I did speak something which is much strong and pressing against a political party's leader. They, of course, harassed me, spoke against me, tried to put up a case on me, which is, I think, very natural in past 2 3 years. I can see it in state of Maharashtra. And sedition is a law, as I was talking about those other draconian laws which have been reduced in our country, is a very biggest colonial, I'm sorry, hangover on us. It's what Britishers used, people speaking against them. And now I think this law, I'm grateful to the government of India. This time, first time, the government of India said we have to relook at this law, and Supreme Court also has now told everyone they will not be taking these cases. But what is happening in Maharashtra or anywhere else, it is not the way our constitution has taught us. It is not the way it's written in our constitution and freedom of speech. And in my state or anywhere else, what I had seen in Kerala or Bengal, it is the insensitivity of leaders that, let me give you an example. The Prime Minister Narendra Modi, you just open up internet. There's always something against him, which is pro him, but there is a lot against him. But we take it as a pinch of salt because this is how the democracy works. This is how the freedom of speech works. But if you put up a post against the chief minister, it's not against, it's about someone's idea, how they look at democracy or how the government should be working. They've been slapped with so many cases, and there are some young people are in jail for past 2 months. So I feel the best sense will prevail in these state governments, and freedom of speech. Maybe our idea of freedom of speech is not burning down our flag, but our idea of freedom of speech is I'm free. I can speak whatever I want. Yes, there are certain ways what kind of sentiments can be heard or not to be heard, because those can be a little bit of a turn and twist to look at with public sentiments. But I think freedom of speech, we have enough to look at. And thanks to Supreme Court, they at least suspended the sedition law as of now. And government of India is looking into it, relooking to make it, uh, maybe we'll see a better and positive news on it.
So before I open up to the audience, I have a question which is of particular interest to me personally. There's been a lot of debate on the idea of India and the reimagining of this idea. Yeah.
I was expecting
So
this.
some political leaders, and there's also an academic narrative which says that India is a union of states. It's a political entity which came into being on 15th August 1947 when we got independent, and it's not a nation. Which idea of India do you subscribe to? Because I think this is a fundamental question between 1.35 billion people as they move forward in the 21st century, bringing the country together.
Don't worry, I won't take 20-30 second pause to answer this. I won't say I am the expert suddenly of the constitution. Uh, I won't say that my party is a private limited company where I, the Poonam Mahajan, hold all the information, and I, the Poonam Mahajan, only can control everything. So, I was expecting this answer to come, a question to come, and I had read, you must have read this, but to define India and in its constitution, I will quote Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar, the father of the constitution. The drafting committee wanted to make it clear that though India was to be a federation, the federation was not the result of an agreement by the states to join in a federation, and that the federation not being the result of an agreement, no state has the right to cede from it. The federation is a union because it is indestructible. Though the country and the people may be divided into different states, for convenience of administration, the country is one integral whole. Its people, a single people living under a single emporium derived from a single source. These provisions make the Indian constitution both unitary as well as federal according to the requirements of time and circumstances. I mean, there is no war coming, so time and circumstances in that manner. In normal times, it is framed to work as a federal system, but in times of war, it is so designed as it to make it work as though it was unitary system. We are a federal state with unitary spirit. Now, let me explain this more politically to you. Um, we are not United States of India. We are India. India was an idea and always a nation, let me put it this way, much before 1947. Bharat, our ideology, our culture, when we talk about finding Mohenjo-daro to, we are talking about the theories, what we have seen it, our idea of India was much, much before than what people are talking about. But when we assembled everybody together, and from 1947, um, I think in the Constituent Assembly, the discussion was going on where T.T. Krishmachari spoke about Tamil Nadu, how Tamil Nadu is little different than India's, not learning Hindi, not speaking Hindi. So I think in that continuation debate also, Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar gave this quote. So I come from a state of Maharashtra. My basic and main mother tongue is Marathi. I speak in Marathi. I've done my schooling in Marathi. I learned Hindi after Marathi because staying in a city of Mumbai where you have a lot of Hindi speaking people also. And English is my actually a fourth language, not even a third language. I learned English when I was in college, when it was required, when I started my flying school. I was a commercial pilot. So when I started flying and I understood I need to go outside India to finish my flying hours, then I realized I need to press on learning this language because it's a global language and acceptable. So the idea of India is very natural, been there for a long time before 1947. But we did make these princely states as states, divide by a little bit of cultural and languages change. But the patriotism was for India. We fought for India. We did not fight for Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, Uttar Pradesh, or Jammu Kashmir. We all came together, fought for India's freedom, not the freedom of every state. And that's how we have learned. I think it's so basic that I feel really sad because you don't have many governments in the Hindi speaking heartland states. And then, in coming elections, those leaders might lose those states also. You have it maybe somewhere in Rajasthan or somewhere in Chhattisgarh. You might lose those states, and you don't have that kind of political will to work towards it. So you need friends in different parties who hold those states in southern India. And you create this, I always feel this is creating a fire and trying to divide India into something which actually India has never seen. I have never seen this discussion ever in my life, never followed it. This is the first time a political frustration, which nobody could handle it in India, uh, someone has to go and blurt it out abroad, speak about India's unity outside India. Will anyone like from their own respective countries to talk about it? So when you don't know the idea of India, I think you should shut it, and you don't deserve to be also a public representative because you really don't know. When you lose your election from the northern side of India and come to southern India to win an election, and then suddenly idea of India and language divide makes you realize that that will give you a political benefit. No, sir. Constitution itself says we are union one India. So that's the idea of India I see. Being a Marathi Mumbai girl, patriot, love my country, and my idea of India is India. It's not divided into what has been nowadays spoken on international platform, because Indian platform is not it will not be given to them because they don't believe in this idea of India.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. We'll open it up to the audience. You can raise your hands and I'll let you in one by one.
Sid, I do want to say just before we begin the questions, first of all, thank you both. That was wonderful. This is being recorded, so just keep that in mind as you present your questions.
If you want to say something and you don't want your names or your faces to be visible, you can also use the chat box and I'll convey that question.
Don't worry, it's freedom of speech with me, so you have not to worry if or email it to me.
Questions?
There is one question already in the chat if you want to answer that, and after that I can ask one.
Okay, so there's one question on the chat. What safeguards did the government put in place to avoid identity theft and corruption in the digital transformation, and also ensuring that the benefits transfer are used for building toilets, for example, and not something else?
So the system is quite clear, and I think we haven't seen a big breach. So I think with the identity theft and corruption, yes, we do see a lot of as a nation, because technologically we're going forward using internet to the fullest. So there are certain ways the IT ministry has its way to look forward to. So we haven't seen a big breach, but we are prepared for it. So how every nation is.
Tanushree.
Yeah, hello Poonamji. My name is Tanushree. I'm a PhD student in University of Cambridge. Mira, I have a general question. It's about, I think BJP is one party that does not follow this nepotism standard where you have the same family, like a family person just continue ruling. So what are the current things that the BJP is doing to attract the youth like me if you want to join your party, or how do you welcome the youth right now into your party, or what activities you're putting in place?
First of all, if you want to intern with me for my parliamentary work, welcome. So that's how I'm letting you in BJP. That's how I let a lot of youngsters to let in BJP. There are certain private members bill. Sometimes I don't have an idea what to put forward. I'm not Miss Know-it-all. I need the experts to help me out. So I would love to invite you if you want to be in BJP. It depends how the youth wants to connect with politics. I always say politics is, in India, everybody's part-time business, part-time interest, because policies affect everybody's lives in India. So somehow with that policy and that politics, everybody should connect with it. I think the Prime Minister himself, he won because of the popular youth vote in 2014 and 19. Today's youth, and sometimes because I have an 18-year-old and he's going to be my first time voter, I'm worried that he'll vote for me or not. So I try to woo him also at home. Ideologically, of course, we have a lot of differences, but I'll try to work on that too. When you talk about youngsters in India with the internet penetration, it is not like how we had something. They have a lot of information much, much before than we had. So with that information and that kind of, the speed India is taking in the World Forum, uh, and the kind of, we have Atal Tinkering Lab, we have incubation center by the government of India, where this kind of incubation centers were never an idea much before, again, 2014, before or later. And these incubation centers have created, and especially Atal Tinkering Lab, which is in schools, which has created so many brilliant minds. So we have brilliant minds, but connecting someone with youth to join politics, it depends what kind of part you want to be giving yourself in politics. Do you want to work with a public policy maker? Do you want to work in a public life where you want to contest an election? You want to be part of policy making? There are so many other things. I think BJP and people like us who are public representatives luckily get a lot of young people and their feedbacks. A few of my kids are in Cambridge. Sorry, I call them kids because they worked with me in my first term. There are few are in Harvard, studying, doing well in good universities, and want to come back and still again work with me and work with even with the Prime Minister's office, the lateral entry, which I just realized, as Mr. Verma can explain it more, the lateral entry for people who do not come from public service background can be part of those policy makings. I mean, there are so many different kinds of platforms have been given by the government. I think we do have that, but my open invitation for you to join BJP or a member of parliament's office, I'm waiting for you.
Thank you so much. Thanks. Yes.
That's great. Something positive is coming out of this discussion, something concrete. I'll have Rohit next, who has a question.
Hi, Poonamji. Thank you so much for your talk. It's really a privilege to hear you speak. I guess my question is around, is actually a more economics related question, but there are a lot of concerns around rising interest rates all around the world. And the US Federal Reserve has indicated that they will be, we are expecting some serious hikes in interest rates. So what is India doing to kind of brace for that and protect the economy from a broader global setbacks economically that may occur? Thanks.
So Rohit, hi. First of all, we are not saying that we can't control inflation, which many other countries that we've taken name have openly said, the leaders have said it, it's not under control and we might face challenges. We are working on it. Today itself, RBI's governor has again worked on the repo rate, where we are trying to curb inflation. We're just not talking about it. We are trying to put in liquidity curb, everything to work on where, frankly, the common man does not get that kind of impact. Wheat export stopped. I think I need to take care of my Indians. I mean, we have been trying to help out everyone after Ukraine, but the tax on steel, it's 10 to 15% on steel tax. Export of wheat has been cut down. Now there's no export of wheat. We are every time with the Reserve Bank of India, always modifying our repo rate to work on how do we actually try to control inflation. We are not saying we can't control it, because it's that way we are trying to show the people that we are working on it and it's under control. And still positively, with all these inflation control, we are looking forward to GDP in coming times, which I saw it today on the news, by 7.2%. So that kind of growth is, I'm not saying great, but with the circumstances with the COVID, Ukraine war, I think we are really trying our best to hold it with this fragile economy all around the world with such a big population.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, more questions. I'm sure people have a lot of questions. You can just type in the chat box if you.
Maybe I think there are, yeah.
I think
Either-
John Mark has a question, Sid.
Yeah, go ahead.
They got so bored that they don't want to ask any questions. Only two options.
Hey, you're on mute, John Mark.
Yeah, you're on mute. Yeah.
Sorry. Hi, John Mark here. So I got into a really interesting discussion with Sid yesterday. So I'm American, and over the past couple of years, 3, 4, 5 years, we've had quite an interesting situation in the States. And, for us, debating, where is that line of what's acceptable level of free speech and what's not, and how we've teetered. And this is coming from somebody who very much believes in democracy and free speech. But we've seen in the US that the impacts of that teetering and where that's kind of dived in the wrong direction. And so I would be really curious to hear kind of from your perspective, from an Indian perspective, is there a line, is it an absolutist perspective, or are there caveats? And I'd just like to hear your thoughts on that.
Thank you, Mr. Waltz. As I've understood your question, I don't know what deeply. I don't know, in my eyes, in the prospect of freedom of speech, I don't want to see my flag to be burnt, how you can do it in the United States of America. I believe freedom of speech to the fullest with our Article 14 and 21 is very important. But with the kind of sensitivity with freedom of speech, a country which has many other aspects to look at in the society becomes very difficult. Me as a member of parliament, I have never seen in my party also, BJP, that if I say a certain thing which lawfully and logically is right for freedom of speech is being curtailed or told anything to me. I do not want to speak much about the other countries, but what I want to say, we have a great deal of Article 14 and 21, which shows the freedom of speech through my eyes. But if there is a greater discussion, we can have it. But there are certain ways we have become quite insensitive as people on very stupid matters. And sometimes the logical matters also make everyone extremely insensitive. So we need to, as humanity, see what is important. That's how I can actually mark the whole answer to you. Because though I'm free to speak anything, but I need to speak more logical. And I think in my country, political, some archaic law to be under control, as we spoke before, but freedom of speech in our country is very well high and supreme. Just that's how we look at it. The insensitivity. I mean, America has seen the extremity and the strength of freedom of speech. But how do you see as a country is completely different. How I'm raised in my society is completely different. But my law has given me all the strength to speak what my mind is and what I think. I think that also makes a lot of difference and matter of discussion also sometimes with insensitivity and we becoming very conscious. We do fight that in court and get a lot of, it has happened once in the state of Bengal when I was the youth wing president. And there was a meme made on the now Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee ji. And there was a sedition case slapped on this young girl, Priyanka Sharma. We fought it till Supreme Court about freedom of speech and she got out. So that kind of freedom of speech in India is supreme.
Yeah, but I guess, the discussion we were having yesterday was so important that why should people have to go to court and, fight cases against them? And I think you would agree on that this is completely unnecessary.
I do. That's why I said insensitivity. Yeah. I mean, somewhere we need to have a kind of stronger heart and mind and a little bit of more, I wouldn't say, I think the society has to decide somehow. It does not come only with education, it comes with your higher knowing, understanding, where we are looking at futuristically how the world is going forward with 7 billion people. So many difficult issues we will be facing. We are now global citizens. Still, we are fighting for our borders. There are so many things we need to find this, where you find yourself in freedom of speech and where the importance has to be given with that insensitivity. It depends on that society.
Thank you. Are there more questions? Maybe Ambika, you should have a question. You always have questions.
I mean, for me, it's a daily discussion with Poonamji. So I just normally WhatsApp. Oh my God.
But then others could also,
which are seldom related to politics. So I think there's another question coming in from.
I actually do have a question, so I'm happy to join in if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
Hi, it was a pleasure listening to you. I would like to briefly return to the topic of financial digitalization, if you don't mind. So you have mentioned how much progress the Modi government has made in incentivizing people to switch from using cash to opening bank accounts and using bank cards. Nevertheless, their policy of demonetization and the withdrawal of 1,000 and 500 rupee bills caused international backlash. So I'm wondering, how would you evaluate this policy of demonetization now, 2 or even 3 years in retrospect? And do you think if there is a future of revoking, well, cash and bills in the future?
I won't speak about cashless economy. That sounds really very difficult to even look at, because but you know, we can have economy where why we speak about direct benefit transfer and sensitive borders where counterfeit currency actually is the best way to destroy the democracy. We have to be prepared as a country. And what happened with demonetization, you could see afterwards right now with so many people, with the cases of PMLA, cash transactions. Um, there are many things happened after that. Demonetization and after demonetization has not made a stronger impact. And frankly, I must tell you, demonetization economically being discussed on a very different platform for people who actually were not holding that kind of cash, correct cash, actually welcomed this decision. And because of that, the convert to online payments, convert because we have GST, paying taxes, has become more streamlined. Country before 8th November 2016 and after that has seen more of a cleaner way of financial transactions, and which actually we have achieved. There are difficulties to achieve more. Yes, we do. There are challenges. Of course, yes. Because India itself also faces a lot of, with 500 and 2,000 rupee notes, counterfeit note coming in India. We have amazing neighbors to, try to destroy our economy. There are many things happen. But I'm telling you, because of JAM, Jandhan Aadhaar Mobile, direct benefit transfer, more on payments, 40% of India's UPI payments, 40% of world's transactions are actually now in India. This shows the clarity of financial transactions, which was not there. So maybe that's the clarity I wanted to give it to you. Thanks,
Thank
Ben.
you.
Thank you so much. I think we have run out of time and I probably can't take more questions. Thank you so much, Poonam Mahajanji, for joining us and discussing on so many different issues concerning India and the future of how India will go forward in the 21st century. It was great to have you. Thank you everyone for joining in and for asking your questions. I think we'll wrap up now. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Congratulations. I think everybody will be wearing their graduation hats very soon.
Yes, most of us.
Good luck to all
I
of
hope.
you. Hope to see you soon, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.